So what happens when the most powerful military on the planet suddenly realizes it might be walking straight into a war it just can't win? Well, today, we're going to unpack a secret U.S. government briefing on Iran. This was a meeting that, according to our source material, revealed just how unprepared Washington was for the real cost of a conflict.
Okay, so it all kicked off in this closed-door intelligence briefing for U.S. senators. And let me tell you, this wasn't just some routine update. Nope, this was a session that reportedly just shattered a lot of long-held beliefs about what a conflict with Iran would actually look like.
So picture this. For over 2 hours, inside a secure, classified room, U.S. senators are getting a briefing that was never supposed to see the light of day. And the topic? The grim, unvarnished truth of what a war with Iran would really entail.
Now, the whole point was supposed to be to clarify the strategic situation, get everyone on the same page. But instead, lawmakers apparently walked out of there with this deeply unsettling realization. The very conflict they were thinking about was built on some seriously dangerous miscalculations.
And the reaction from these lawmakers wasn't just some quiet, polite concern. Oh no, it was immediate and very public alarm. It's pretty clear that what they heard in that room, well, it shook them.
This quote from Senator Chris Murphy, it just gets right to the heart of it. The briefing seems to have revealed this startling lack of any clear strategy. There was no real objective, no exit plan, just the prospect of a directionless and, honestly, a potentially endless conflict.
Now here's the real kicker they uncovered. Iran's nuclear program is buried so deep underground that America's biggest military advantage, its air power, is basically useless against it. And that left only one pretty terrifying alternative on the table: a full-scale ground invasion.
And we're not just talking hypotheticals here. The conversation in that room apparently turned to actually putting boots on the ground in Iran, a move that would just raise the stakes to a whole new, terrifying level.
So, what would U.S. troops be facing? It wouldn't be a surprised enemy. What they'd be walking into is a nation that had reportedly spent the last 50 years preparing its entire society for this exact moment.
You see, Iran's defense strategy wasn't just about military hardware. It was about turning the whole country into a fortress. We're talking about key assets buried thousands of feet underground, and a population of 90 million people mobilized and, from what we're told, unified against an attack. That makes for an almost impossible target for a ground invasion.
And the impact wouldn't just be on the battlefield, not even close. The briefing also laid out how a conflict would instantly trigger severe economic and diplomatic fallout all around the world.
$5 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's the immediate price tag of this conflict. Yep, that's the reported value of U.S. weapons fired in just the first 2 days. $5 billion gone in 48 hours. It just goes to show you the incredible speed and the financial burn rate of modern warfare.
And right away, the fight spilled over into economic warfare. Iran allegedly moved to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which is a major choke point for a huge chunk of the world's oil. By laying sea mines, they basically turned the global energy supply into a weapon. But to really get the human impact, let's look at the totally different realities on the ground. We have reports from the BBC in Israel and CNN in Iran, and they paint two starkly different pictures of what life was like during the conflict.
I mean, this comparison is just wow. It's a shocking disconnect. In Israel, the BBC was reporting an atmosphere of fear and desolation. Businesses closed, sirens failing, life under lockdown. But at the same time, over in Iran, CNN was reporting business as usual, with busy hotels and streets. This really highlights a central point of the analysis. The initial burden of this conflict fell way more heavily on one civilian population than the other.
So, in the end, this secret briefing revealed a pretty terrifying paradox. America's military options were seen as catastrophic, but the economic and regional fallout was already spiraling out of control. And that leaves us with this chilling question. When brute force is basically a dead end, what moves are even left on the chessboard?